This is old, yeah.
And this is not a spring chicken. As you know, we've been following trade shows, current events, politics for, golly, practically since we started.
Yeah, that's where we, the first thing that we did after covering Hurricane Katrina was to go to a trade show with people, basically. We got in on the strength of the fact that we were doing so much on Katrina. They let us come to the Consumer Electronics Show was the first one.
Yeah, I think they were kind of curious to see what we would end up doing.
Yeah.
But one of the things, we just came from the Sema show in Las Vegas, which is the automotive aftermarket, and we saw something we typically do not see.
No, we generally don't stay. At CES we stay until later in the last day because, you know, they tend to give away stuff to the office. They don't pack things up, they give them to people. But what happens is at most trade shows, about 12 o'clock, they start breaking things down, and they're gone.
They do.
Because they got to be out of there by like 8, 9 o'clock that night. Everything's got to be cleaned up for the next day's trade show.
Yeah, I'm really amazed because, I mean, I had heard one time what the timing was. It's like they had to be out at 9, the next trade show starts at midnight, or, I mean, something crazy to start for the next day being open.
That's right.
I mean, it's really a very tight time frame.
Because while trade shows are dwindling, the trade shows in the big halls, they may have narrowed down, but they're still doing it in a hall, and that takes a gigantic effort, because they're yanking the carpet up off the floors, they're putting the thing down, they're repacking, and then they've got to get that out so that people can back the semis in, unpack, and lay the floor down for the new show.
So one of the things we thought, well, maybe there's a new trend, because part of it is we've been doing this for years, and typically the very last day is, it's dead.
Yeah.
In fact, they start pulling cars out, if it goes through Friday, they start pulling cars out on Thursday.
Yeah.
Which we were getting anxious. So on Thursday, we were running around trying to get pictures of cars that we hadn't gotten before.
Yeah, and then Thursday we're there, we bring out our 360 camera because we meant to do it earlier, but we did everything in 3D this time. And it's an ungodly effort to do a whole show in 3D. Because generally, we actually have 2 3D cameras, so we were able to make it work easier. But still, usually because what we've got a broadcast camera, a smaller camera, we've got a DSLR, and we've got our 360s. So we got a whole variety of things. But we didn't realize the complicated effort it is to do things in 3D.
Well.
Yeah, but we went out there, and only a few cars had been pulled out of outside. At 12:30, they were still sitting there, and the show closed at 3.
The press room closed at 2, the show closed at 3. Actually, I was really surprised about that, because we had anticipated, okay, the last day we'll go around, it'll be real easy, walk the hall,
it's what we do.
Pictures of the cars.
The very last day, I walk every hall in the place shooting still pictures of everything that's there. I start in the morning and then try to be out by noon when there's nothing left. No. There was
a lot of people around still.
Yeah, and even in the press room, they were amazed by the fact that they thought that 2/3 of the press personnel was still there at 12:30, and they didn't have lunch. There were no lunches, so, and they're still there because their lockers were still in use. So, just like there was sort of a change. Well, she was in the halls. I mean, you're trying to. I think I had more of a problem on the last day getting pictures than I did before because there were so many people in the walkway.
There were still a lot of people in the walkway. In fact, not the last day, but a couple of days, actually the day before probably, I was on the bus. I was talking to one of the gentlemen that was there. He actually was there from Chile.
Yeah.
And I'd asked him, he had come back from Apex and he was going over to the Sema show. And Apex is another, actually they've changed a little bit.
Oh, Apex is basically, okay. Apex used to be a place where all of these things at the automotive shops and like Walmart, Kmart, all of them, that they have on the end of the rows for your automobiles that you can pick them up, make your car smell good, the little toy stuff. There weren't any at Apex this year. Whole bottom floor was China, and upstairs it is so pristine, and well, I couldn't take pictures, video there, so I could show you if they did, but it looked. I never seen Apex look like that before. Really? It just looked like you were in another world from what Apex used to be. So, it just, I was going to do a deal on all of the little things that people put in their cars, the toys, their seat things were all gone. I mean, you know, the things that to pick up the porta potties for your vans, those were going. The electronic stuff that you would normally, you know, the little toy things you plug into your stuff, they were no longer there. It just all went to what they were, which is Apex is the nuts and bolts of the aftermarket industry. It's the guys that actually is the nuts and bolts, you know, the spanners, the splitters, the little wedges, things that you have to put in order to make certain that, because see, that all replacement bolts that you can buy in the right size may not be the right size, so you put a little wedge underneath so you have something to tie it on. You know, they come grooved, and so all of the little nuts and bolts, the piston rings, the pistons, the heads, the gaskets, the glue, the paint, all of that stuff is sitting over there. So, like some companies like 3M were all over the place. They were in. They were in Apex. They were in North Hall. I think they were in over in the tire area, over where the global industries were. So, but the place was full of people. I mean, Apex is never full, but Apex basically still had a good turnout, considering a lot of what people were looking for was no longer there.
Well, and part of it is when you come to the SEMA, it is not just, and the CES is the same way, it's not just people in the United States. There are people from all over the world that come to this trade show. I was on the bus with the gentleman from Chile, and I'd asked him, I says, how many times have you been here to the SEMA and Apex show? And he said, this is my second year. And I said, really? And I said, well, with the internet and everything, why do you come to the show? And he said, well, I came last year. And he said, I decided to come this year again. He says, because, he says, even though you can look at it on the internet, there's nothing like actually seeing the product and touching it.
Well, the problem is that a lot of the stuff that they make are not conducive to being shown on the internet. It's a picture, it's one-dimensional. I mean, like holding a nut for a car is different than looking at that nut, because you can sit there and hold it and sit there, and what they do is they sit there, put screws on them, take them off. They sit there, have their ring thing, they have their rings, they sit there, put the, you know, squeeze the little device to basically condense the ring to put it in, because you can actually buy something you think is the wrong size on the internet, the right size, and it's the wrong size, because you can't tell. Like for instance, if you want a whole bunch of 5/32 inch nuts and bolts for an automobile, they're not exactly the same as you can go over to Home Depot and pick up.
Well, you know, like at Home Depot, because you can bring the screw in and actually physically see it.
But they're machine thread.
There's fine and there's
different heads. There's basically flat heads.
Allen heads.
There's Allen head wrenches. Basically, there's all kinds of different heads, Phillips heads, for the position you're putting it in. And you can't really do that in a hardware store. You can get close, which is why they have a tendency to sell the little wedge areas that you can put in, because you've got the wrong length of the bolt that you're putting in. You sit there and put those little sleeves in, is what they actually call them, and you sit there and fill the hole up so it then matches the other side. Yeah, but you don't put it on the side beneath, you put it on the side on top. So then it all fits tight. But it's like you can buy gasket sealer online, but what you basically, it's best to see the gasket sealer being used to see that it does exactly what you want it to do.
Yeah, because there's nothing quite like being there.
And they do it. They sit there and do demonstrations. Like I have a thing, I put up a deal on a company basically wrapping, you know, showing you how a wrap is done on an automobile. That doesn't look the same in pictures as it does in person, where you see how the guy doing it, he's sitting there with a little torch, heating it up, stretching it out, heating it up, taking his X-Acto knife, going down the edges, you know, where the parts are fit together, you know, tucking it in, putting the next one over, tucking it in. That doesn't look the same in a picture, because I'm looking at the pictures and the guy doing the same work is different. But actually, that was what was different too. North Hall didn't have all of the radio stuff. I mean, that's why Sony and all those people weren't there.
Yeah, I was really surprised, because I remember when we spoke with Sony, they said they weren't coming, and I'm like, what? You're not going to SEMA? You know, I didn't even check to see if Alpine was there.
I saw very little radio equipment over there. What was hot was car wraps, you know, and things like that. Actually, window film car wraps. But very little stereo equipment this year, and it's always been,
Which is
the whole
really
end of North
interesting.
Hall has always been all of the radio stuff that they have, you know. But it was Fios basically, I think. Well, I have the, what is it, Flow TV going out under basically brought it in to trying to do things. They also didn't have the internet for cars, was not there. That's always been there. They're trying to sell that because what happens is that the internet for cars died with the telephones. Now they basically have, you can get Wi-Fi off and you just stick it in, and they, you know, as you go down the highway, you got the system in like you in your cell phone. Anyway, but this is a trend. We will know. Actually, another attempt is that we're going to be at the Los Angeles Auto Show in about a week, and we're going to go back one day to see what it looks like afterwards, after the press days, and we can basically tell by the people that are inside the auto show whether there's improvement over there also. And then comes CES. You know, if CES on the last day is like Sema was on the last day, then the trade show industry is in a rebound.
That's true, because we've seen it declining.
Yeah.
One of the things actually I was kind of surprised about is we've covered several different trade shows, is how, let's just say, they're still affected, how little they've been affected. And you're sitting there going, what? It's like, I remember in fashion, we went in a 6-month period, right? From like February to August, we went both times, and we'd been there before, but they had cut down floor space and exhibition space about 2/3.
Yeah.
And I was really floored by that.
Yeah,
Sema is not as large as it was, but I mean, they didn't, I mean, even though they were smaller, they were not as small as before.
No, they weren't as small. But then a lot of the things,
I mean,
too, was
compared to like fashion, they didn't, you know what I mean.
But what happened was a survival of the fittest. The big companies got bigger and the small companies basically are fading away.
Which is what tends to typically happen.
Yeah, which is what they tried to explain, for instance, our president. If you let well enough alone, the system will sort itself out. It looks like at the moment, at least, the automobile afterparts market has sorted itself out.
Actually, I was real happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There weren't as many press conferences from major companies this year as there were in the past, though. That was sort of the odd part. You know, and there weren't as many press conferences from the little companies. It's just sort of like there were press conferences, and then they weren't press conferences. I mean, some of them were just basically reasons for celebrating something. They tell people about it, but you know, some of the people, for instance, Craftsman, once for the second year in a row, didn't have a press conference. I know.
I actually, you know what? Part of it is we were so busy the entire time. I didn't go back to the floor to even check and see if Craftsman was there.
I went to the tool area. I went to tool areas where they were all at, and I didn't see. I saw a lot of companies from Asia with tools, but not Craftsman. I also I saw companies that basically are traditionally over at Sema, over at Apex this time.
You know, one of the companies I wanted to see was Black & Decker, because they have some new products coming out, and we totally missed them. Because I thought they were at Sema and Apex, but they were only at Apex.
I know, that's what the problem is we generally do, what happens is, I'll stop off at Apex to do the floor because since you can't take pictures in there, and I can guarantee you.
Even though they tell you that this year you're supposed to be able to take pictures.
Oh yeah, we think that specifically that said photography allowed at Apex on our, we had an Apex thing this time for doing over there. There was, and the time I was over there, I mean, you're talking guys didn't even get bloggies out to shoot things.
Oh, really?
And outside the new products things, we had the Venetian Nazis walking back and forth, making certain that nobody took pictures of any of the new products that they want everybody to see. So, it's just the thing. It's just like one thing. I'll swear the amount of press corps was way down now.
You know what? I agree with you on that one.
Because it just, when you can get, every time you go in, you can get a computer or a seat to set to put up your own computers. When we went there, there were people standing, waiting in line to get on computers. And like I said,